Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Hey, everybody. If you're watching this as a rerun, you can skip ahead about 14 minutes until we get to the radio side of things. Just want to get some timing done here for the stations, audio quality set, and all that good stuff. And pick peach fuzz off of my microphone, evidently. Oh, morning, Dave. Hope all is well over yonder. What's this one here? Got that one. All right. Mr. Bulgy, good morning. Waylon, good morning. Mr. Wagner, good morning. Magic Mike Wagner, K-Fire Radio. Let's see if I got this ready to go. It is. Good. All right. Well, I am glad to be back from Vegas. Had some good classes, very good classes. Too many people. There was some UFC fight, and they tie that together with the Mexican Independence Day. So every hotel had was very decorated for that occasion, and I should really learn how to speak Spanish, shouldn't we? We never even had foreign language offered in high school. We never had that opportunity. How was your trip? Good. Trip was good. This was a good one. There's no doubt about it. Good ideas on what do you do next, right? Especially when you can't move into other cooperatives areas. So we got some good ideas on that. It was really focused a lot on AI, so we had a lot of artificial intelligent classes on how to using it for different situations, including succession planning for ranches, farms, and what have you. Well, morning, headed to the Kist Hermanson horse sale today to see. So, yeah, that's great. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I forgot about that. The messenger. Good morning, Karen. Good to have you along here this morning, as you are every Saturday. What else is happening here? Now that they mowed the ditches in and around all the highways and county roads and what have you, we're starting to see a few more deer now that a lot of people are chopped all the corn. So most people are done with a lot of the harvest, except for sunflowers and some grain corn that they got to combine yet. But I think that's where a lot of stuff is hanging out. I really do. Not so much here, but certain areas. In fact, I think I might do some scouting today. There's like a baker's dozen things. I'm missing a bull, and I think if it's nice enough out there this morning, according to they say, the wind is supposed to be light and variable today. So if I can get out early this morning, because we do not have fog, and see if I can get around some of those deep draws and see if that bull is like just holed up or is he injured. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm missing one of them. More fog this morning, but the drought is over. Yeah. We got like an inch and a half here over the last week at the ranch, so that was helpful. Everything soaked in. We were getting dry again. Morning, American One Shot Cap. Thanks for joining in this morning. Let's see here. Yeah. I went to a couple of geez, did Vegas get expensive? So we were down there in July for my wife's birthday. And maybe this is just the difference between Fremont Street, where that's where we were in July, to the strip where we had everything for our conventions. A beer is 22 or 23 bucks. A mixed drink is like $32. These are just regular drinks, not the big yardstick looking slushy things. Holy moly, man. I tell you what, you get one block off of the strip and then they're like $10. You get another block, you go across the interstate and it's like $3. So yeah, we're only 2 weeks away from the next drought. Yeah. Yeah, hell. Maybe it's time. Maybe Brent has some openings for some late season fishing down there. Gene, what do you think? What I got going on here next week? Oh, I got an auction tonight at Trinity High School. Okay. Glad I checked my schedule. Freeze branding next week for a neighbor. Big auction when working and preconditioning calves on that day. Okay, so I don't have much time. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Have to get, excuse me, have to get like into October. Hopefully the water's still ready to go. All right, stations, we're a little bit away from our top of the hour here. Yeah, I'll call the fish master. I'll see what he says. I can make 1 day of next week work, but that'd be it. Have to be a Monday, Tuesday situation. But for some reason, I have this thing in my head where I thought I promised somebody to do something next week. I can't remember what it was. Who knows? Morning, Josh. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Stations, countdown in 10 seconds here. Countdown in 10 seconds. And 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, stations on mark. See what Mr. Johnny Arman's up to this morning here. See if his phone's on silent. Morning, Eric from Thunder Valley. Cool.
Good morning.
Morning, John.
How you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
Back
good
from Vegas, maybe.
We had some... What were you doing there? You're consolidated or something?
Yep. Yeah, we had our fall conferences. Get together and discuss what's new on the horizon.
What's new besides AI?
AI is the thing, man. If you're not somehow using it or adapting it, it's going to leave you behind.
Mm-hmm. We just got to figure out how to power it.
You know, that is the key. But the issue that we have right now is that all states, no matter which state it is, their legislator thinks that they want to bring it in. And they're not doing it the right way. They need to do it a different way. But these upper northern tier states, they love states that have 9 months of winter because that's a lot easier on the air conditioning that they need on those servers.
Yeah.
We got the fiber to handle it. We just need the electrical side of things. And then some states give like electrical discounts to bring them in. The state's like, yeah, we'll give you a discount and we'll do this. And then the discount's not a discount. It just moves the price higher for everybody else that has to pay for the excess that they gave away,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know that the one out by Ellendale, they're talking about powering most of it by wind.
Good luck.
Yeah. I know it has created a lot of jobs, but again, it's kind of an oxymoron, or I don't know what I'm looking for, but you create a lot of jobs right away, but you're creating something that's going to take jobs away.
Absolutely, it is. Most of people's marketing, what did they say? Most IT people right now are going to be the HR for AI based chatbots right now because AI they're getting smarter and smarter. No matter what you call a service representative, it's a good chance you're talking to an AI.
Yeah.
Unless they can't figure it out, but yeah, it's something.
Kind of crazy.
And lawyers, lawyers are are charging a lot to say, yeah, I can work up a succession plan for your ranch. Give me the parameters, and they just type it into a chat bot, and boom, there
Hmm.
it is. And they hand it over. Oh, you want this? And then they just, I mean, you can ask it to redo it by just a little of this and a little bit of this. And yeah, it's crazy.
Pretty crazy.
Josh says, I heard there was supposed to be a bunch of Bitcoin servers or something like that going up north of Bismarck, but never heard any more about it. I'm not sure about that either. Never heard that,
Wasn't
but
there one? Wasn't there one going in by Williston?
you know, these data centers, they can be used for any of that. So they're called data centers. What they use them for, mostly it's for AI. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be
Well,
an interesting. The only thing that they need, though, that they can't do, AI cannot produce, is electricity and fiber connections. So still need workers to do that.
yeah. And what's this world going to be like when no one has to work?
Well, that one lady at one of our conferences said AI can do anything that any of you guys do in this room. And I raised my hand. I'm like, no, it can't. She says, what do you mean? And I picked up my phone. I said, hey, Chat GPT, go round up my cows. And I set the phone down on the table, and she's like, okay, well, there's still things that are going to, okay, there's still things that are going to, I'm like, yeah, you can't say everything. Oh, isn't this how the Terminator got started?
Well, like it's funny how I watched shows when I was a kid and about robots taking over, or like a spaceship computer taking over and killing everybody. And that's where we're headed for, because I think someone said that they asked Chat GTP if you could take over the world, and it says, I'm not made to do that. But then later it said, but it could possibly happen or something like that.
Clay Peterson, AI can't pull a calf or feed our cattle. Oh, they can feed. They got the big feedlots are using AI to do mixing rations and everything, and then they got rid of their all the people that did all the mixing rations and figured all that stuff out. They got rid of those people, and the feedlots down from Nebraska down to Oklahoma. All those
Yeah,
big
I've heard
boys,
that.
that's all artificial intelligence feeding right now. You still got to have somebody to load up the big hoppers, but all the augers and everything, it's they're taking over some of the items. There's no doubt. No, not to say that they couldn't put these. Oh, okay. This is for the next break, evidently, but I got more takes. 10 seconds, John. Stand by. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition. Good to have you along on a beautiful Saturday morning across the Dakota Territory and in about 5 other states, a couple Canadian provinces included in there. Thanks for tuning in. As we got great radio stations covering that much community, that much territory, on stations like KGFX out of Pierce, South Dakota, KOLY, the fishing capital in Mobridge, K-Fire 550 out of Bismarck, Mandan, KCJB up in 910 or 91 countries, they call it up there still, in Minot, and on the western edge, KLTC 1460 and 1069. Good to have you along. Thank you for tuning in. And also on my live feed on the YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in on my station there as well. Oh, boy. John Arman from Ultimate Outdoor Adventures TV is my guest. Good morning, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just telling I just got back from Las Vegas for a National Broadband Association seminars that I went through. We're talking about artificial intelligence and how that's making a difference in pretty much everything for the most part. Not so much in some areas, but right before we got on the air, we were discussing how AI can't round up my cows. I said that. And then Clay was saying, well, you still need some people, it can't pull a calf and it can't do this or that. The more you think about it, it's like now they have this geofencing thing that they put around cows' necks, and they're trying to, put barriers up so your cows can only go so far. And, which I look at that and I'm like, I see the benefit of that in a way, but it just makes your other neighbor it makes your neighbors not have to try to fix fence. However, And then I look at it as a worst case scenario, like, well, what if a fire comes? A lot of times in these pastures, it's like, just cut the fence, let the cows move into the neighbors so we can get in and so they don't get burnt up. But if they have this geofencing on, does it recognize that there's a fire and, we're cutting the fence, letting them go through or not? And I said, well, you can't round up cattle. Maybe with this geofencing thing on their neck, maybe they'll be able to like buzz them a little bit and start herding them in a little differently. I don't know. It's crazy how different things are going here, John.
Well, JW sitting next to me, and he just asked AI, where in the hell our deer are at, and why aren't they moving? And we didn't get much of an answer.
Yeah, it's surprising though here. Oh, my buddy Jay, he says the true AI, artificial insemination, is still
There
the
you go.
original AI. So yeah. But yeah, how is it going to look into the hunting industry, down the road? How can or will AI start in on the hunting side of things or the fishing side of things? Or I mean, are there going to be automatic rods on your boat that when the live scope sees something, it'll drop down a jigging wrap and know how to do this stuff? I mean, will it take all of that out of the equation? I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it will move into like range finders, anything electronic. Looking at your stealth cams and your game cameras and things like that. I'm sure it's already being used, like identifying bucks and
Right.
things like. Because I would like a trail camera that does not go off unless it's a buck that I want to shoot in front of it.
I bet you that's not far out of there either, John. I mean, they can recognize which buck is which and determine, the growth of it from one year to the next. Oh, that's an interesting concept. I wonder if that's
No,
something
I'm
they're
sure.
working
And
on.
then
Yeah,
and I bet if you put multiple cameras out, it would figure out its pattern for you.
exactly.
Again, how far we want to go with everything in this world. I was listening to a conversation, and when they talk away about like truck drivers going away because it will all be
Self,
automatic,
yeah.
self-driving trucks. Just think of everybody. It almost turns into a socialistic country where everybody gets paid and everybody gets a house and they don't have to do any work because AI is doing it. I'm going to invest in the alcohol business and probably the drug business, because what are people going to do if they have no self worth besides medicate themselves and destroy themselves? Because when you wake up in the morning, you always have a plan. You always have something to do. That's just the way we're wired. That's why I think when people retire, some of them have trouble because their whole life they've been doing something and they feel like they're worthy of doing their job, and now they don't have a job and they don't know what to do. And I think when people are given things and we don't have to work the way we should be, because I think we are made to work, it's going to be kind of a crazy world.
Well, you see some of these fishing tournaments looking at maybe limiting or even up to the point of banning the live scopes or the forward facing sonar type of equipment because it's expensive, and if you can't afford it, it takes that out of this person isn't going to compete with this person. So some of the tournaments are looking at that. Maybe I wonder if some of the state by state they're going to have regulations on certain cameras or rangefinders like they already do, right? You can't have a rangefinder mounted on your bow in North Dakota, right? And so I wonder if it's going to become more of a state slash game fish parks issue when it comes to AI getting to that point.
I'm sure it will, because I know that I've been watching the live scope thing, and I think there's tournaments that are banning it. I think maybe in the bass fishing world, I don't know, in the walleye fishing world, or maybe in the walleye fishing world. I'm sure Jason would know, but it's changed the way they fish drastically. They no longer go out and look for structure and things like that. They just go buzzing around and they're looking for fish. And I mean, these guys are good at it. And these young kids, Jason was saying, these kids are 18, 20 years old, been looking at a screen their whole life. They love it. I mean, they just Mach 10 on their trolling motor and they find fish, and they cast them. They don't bite. They're gone. They go to the next one. And so, yeah, things are changing. And I think, and everything, there's got to be, you hate rules and regulations, but when things get to be going the way they are, at what point do you say enough is enough?
Yeah, and who makes those decisions to say enough is
Right.
enough, right? I mean, If
Well,
it,
and that's it.
yeah, because you get somebody. It's, again, I keep picking on North Dakota about their term limits that they have at 8 years, and they're every other year. So 4 years is basically what they're getting, and it's going to be a turnover rate. And some of these kids are going to be pretty young coming in there and going into the legislature. Maybe they got those younger ideas where they're like, yeah, what's wrong with having AI cameras and all this other stuff? I mean, it might be a different take on that depending on who's making those decisions.
Absolutely. And when you look at the way our world is, when you go from a blue city to a red city and see the decisions that are made, from a blue state to a red state, look at, that's why we live where we do, is because we're conservative and we want those conservative values here. And so we kind of live by them. And that is changing as more and more people moving to North Dakota, and people are switching states, moving out of blue states, moving into red states and red cities, but even though they want to get away from some of those left-wing ideologies, they're coming with some of it and keeping some of it because they're not losing all of it. So things are changing, and I don't know. I'd like to turn the clock back for my kids and for everybody, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, the Black Hills of South Dakota really during COVID got inundated with a lot of Californians, and there's no doubt that the ideologies definitely have kind of changed, especially when you see people's like signs in the front yard. You didn't see that 5-6 years ago. Well, John, we're up against our first break. We're going to come back talk. I saw Shelby got a heck of a deer, and we're going to talk about that and more. Hunting around youth season for North Dakota kids, the deer gun season that opened up yesterday. We got that and more. It's all coming up your way here on Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition. As a big thanks to all of my sponsors out there supporting me, including these. Piper's Auction and Real Estate would like to invite you to their next round of sales. Coming up, the Rooster Ridge Equipment and Hunting Supply Auction at Fort Ransom, North Dakota on Thursday, September 25th. Also coming up on Thursday, September 25th, is the West Dakota Fall Equipment Auction featured out of Bowman, North Dakota. And the Central Dakota Fall Equipment Auction in Steele is November 11th. And the DeWald Estate Equipment Auction in Streator is going to be held on November 18th. For more information and to bid with confidence, go to pifers.com.
I'm Dale Falke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, your trusted partner in ag lending. With our deep understanding and appreciation for the Western way of life, we proudly accept, respect, and promote the values that define our community. Whether you're a farmer, rancher, or business owner, we are here to support your financial needs and help you thrive. Choose Dakota Community Bank and Trust for all your banking needs.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Eastern Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. You can be sure of great care for your cattle and top price at sale time. Call Austin Snook at 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161 for more information or just to talk cattle markets. You can also find them on Facebook and go to their website, bowmanlivestockmarketing.com. There's a reason you're seeing more Red Angus cattle in the country. Great mama cows, high weaning weights, and easy keepers. With a family that bases their entire operation on faith, honesty, and trust. You can see those values in their 30-plus years in the Red Angus breed. Schriefer Red Angus, the breed that generates a positive return on investment. SchrieferRedAngus.com. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Morest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can do it in a fraction of time with just one person on foot or horseback. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's a tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran-owned and operated. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where local banking is as comfortable as your favorite pair of work boots. Step into our branches and experience a friendly atmosphere, personalized service, and financial expertise. Whether you're a hardworking farmer, a small business owner, or a local resident, we've got the banking solutions that you need. So kick off your boots and let us take care of your financial needs at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Piper's Auction and Real Estate would like to invite you to their next round of sales. Coming up, the Rooster Ridge Equipment and Hunting Supply Auction at Fort Ransom, North Dakota on Thursday, September 25th. Also coming up on Thursday, September 25th, is the West Dakota Fall Equipment Auction featured out of Bowman, North Dakota. And the Central Dakota Fall Equipment Auction in Steele is November 11th, and the DeWald Estate Equipment Auction in Streeter is going to be held on November 18th. For more information and to bid with confidence, go to pifers.com.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Dakota Prairie Outdoors on the Saturday side of things. It's a beautiful morning here this morning at the ranch. John Arman from Ultimate Outdoor Adventures TV's here. I think JW's in the background as well. And, you know, you were just discussing, John, during the break, some of the large elk that have been taking in the western side of North Dakota. There's been some great ones also down in the Black Hills side of things. But, yeah, there's some big elk that have been taken, and it's crazy to see. Tell the story. Your brother was hunting the same elk, and it got kind of shot out from underneath him a little bit.
Well, it was one of those deals. I mean, it's the way it goes. Hunting there. He was helping a rancher in an area that he hunts, and the rancher had the gratis tag, and Russ is out there bow hunting quite a bit and knew where the elk were at, and had been watching an elk for a couple of years that was going to be something special. And ended up, they watched, all of a sudden someone comes walking down and walking back up and walking down with packs. And they went over to see what was going on because they, that's where that elk was at. And they didn't know if a bow hunter got it, but a young lady shot it. They didn't even hear the shot because she was shooting suppressed. But I mean, you're talking, a giant bull, and it's part of it. I mean, it's one of those things that hurt. But they rallied and ended up getting on another good bull, probably in the 360s or whatever, and that was the guy's first elk. So I think sometimes people, they think of magical 400-inch elk in North Dakota. Well, there's not that many of them, and shooting a 350-inch bull is a big bull.
Yeah,
I don't care where you go. It was, and Russ actually filmed it for me, and it turned out pretty good. I'm excited to show that this year because he did a good job, and they sat on an elk for, he texted me and he said he's right below him, and it was at like 8 a.m. Pretty soon it's noon, and he goes, I can still hear him. And I said, you guys got any food and water? He goes, nope. And they sat there for 6-7 hours just waiting on him before the cows went to water, and he knew the place, and he said the bull's going to have to go there, and he's going to have to come back, and it came right back to him. So they ended up shooting a beautiful, like I said, I want to say it was a 7x6, probably in that 350, 360, but huge mature bull, big mass on it. So they had a great hunt.
So I showed the picture of the gal that got that. I found that on Jason Zins's Instagram post there, but I can't find the one. I don't think you guys didn't post anything on that other one,
No,
did you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think he posted it just because of the rancher and stuff. But
Okay.
I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
And
No, it's amazing though. I mean, if you let them grow, they'll grow, and
they do. And
yeah,
they've watched them, and they're trying to, like I said, Russ keeps it pretty hush hush, and so do the ranchers out there. Just and it's not that. And the rancher where he gets to hunt lets people hunt. They let other people hunt. They're not selfish. They just want. They're going to get gratis tags, so they would like to see some of the deer and some of the elk grow, which you can't blame them. So then they have a chance of shooting, a big animal. So they bring in other people, and again, I actually talked to Russ about a young man. I think there's a young man that's got a tag. He's probably a freshman in high school, and I'm hoping he's one of those kids that does not want to shoot the world record, because then he has a chance of possibly going with us. Because again, they are not going to shoot the up and comers, and they want to let them live. But there's some 6x3s or 6x4s and things like that. So, and he's out there right now hunting in the Badlands. He's actually taking some kids on their deer hunt, for the youth season, which again, he's been gracious enough to take those kids out there. But he does, he's no different than me. We're not real big on youth seasons as far as shooting giant deer in September. But he's got some mule deer out there that have that, bad genetics and they're big deer. They're probably 150s. They just don't have the genetics become a real good one. So they're going to try to take some of those out of the gene pool.
Yeah. Managing the herd for genetics. That's a tough one because 50% of genetics come from the doe side too. So
right.
How does a person do that? I mean, if you continuously have just big boys, eventually that should work its way in there, right?
Well, yeah, and we've got weight stations set up all over our ranch where we see does working out. They're doing bench presses and they're trying to get the genetics, and we're feeding them the Big and J, and we got some 350-pound does out here that are passing on their genes.
There you go. Do you think that mineral sites and putting those out work with helping with the antler growth?
Well, I'm going to say that I'm 110% that they do, just because we've been on this ranch since 1968. And until probably we started filming 24 years ago, I would say up to that point, we had never killed a 150-inch deer. And that was when I got into I started with Lucky Buck Mineral. And then when I got into Big and J, I was able to, and again, it's not cheap. Putting out mineral isn't expensive, but if you want to supplemental feed them and really pump it to them, it's, you're going to spend a few $1,000s, and then some. And I started doing that because I was lucky enough with the sponsorship that would feed them good quality feed and not just fillers. Because again, a lot of people put corn out there, and corn is like candy. It's no different for us. It's like, there's good things that we really like to eat that taste really good, but they're not great for us. And corn is one of those feeds, no different than when you feed your cows. Corn has its purpose, but you don't just feed them straight corn. And that's why you have other things that you mix in there. And that's what I do with the Big and J. And we've gone, just the mass in our deer have gone up. And, we're shooting nothing under 150-inch deer anymore. And again, our genetics haven't changed. You can see them over the years, the same deer, whether they're the narrow rack and the tall brow tines, but they've just seemed like they are bigger bodied and healthier. So I'm a firm believer in it.
Yeah. When you supplement feed, what's the difference between supplement feeding and baiting?
Well, we've never been able to bait. It's kind of fun and weird now we can bait. And what we have done is I run feeders, and I put in those feeders, they're 400-pound feeders. I'll put about 250 pounds to 300 pounds of Big and J granular stuff in there with some corn. You got to have the corn in there just to get it to run through the feeders. And those deer hit those feeders, and we never hunted over them because we weren't allowed to hunt over them. And I still won't hunt over a feeder. I'm not against it. I just don't want to shoot a deer going to a feeder. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like picking up a date at the smorgasbord. I just not real good about it. I just would like to at least let them walk out in the parking lot before I approach them. And so with the deer this year, we can bait, and I'm not against sprinkling a little bit of Big and J out there so you get a good ethical shot, because they're going to come to that soybean field. And if it's an 8-acre soybean field, how do you get them out in front of you instead of taking a 50, 60-yard shot? Well, if you sprinkle a little bit of corn out there, which some people do, they're going to come through there and you're going to get a good shot. And so, the difference, like I said, is I was feeding them and not hunting them. And now we're feeding them, and we can hunt over if we want to.
Right. But it's a choice now. Yeah.
Right. And it's a choice. And again, I got nothing against it. I did a video about how to bait, and I told people I'm a firm believer, don't dump a pile. When you dump a pile, it just creates a mess. It creates every animal coming to that one spot, and if you do believe in any of the science and CWD or the non-science or whatever you want to call it, disease spread, if you have a pile of corn and you have 100 deer hitting it, there's going to be all kinds of feces and urine and everything there. It's not going to be healthy. So I tell people, if you can take that 100, 200 pounds of cord, spread it over 50, 60 yards, out in front of your blind. And then the deer come through naturally and graze. They'll hit the alfalfa, they'll grab some corn, they'll hit the alfalfa, and they move through. And they don't just sit on a pile.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a better way of doing it to get the deer to move around naturally. And it looks better. And I think you have a better chance of shooting that big buck, because that big buck is not always going to come in to that pile. And then if he is on that pile and you got other bucks coming up, they're going to turn, they're going to square off. Like I said, just make it natural.
All right. Well, we're up against our half-hour break. We'll continue this conversation in the second half. John Arman on Dakota Prairie Outdoors. Piper's Auction and Real Estate would like to invite you to their next round of sales. Coming up, the Rooster Ridge Equipment and Hunting Supply Auction at Fort Ransom, North Dakota on Thursday, September 25th. Also coming up on Thursday, September 25th, is the West Dakota Fall Equipment Auction featured out of Bowman, North Dakota. And the Central Dakota Fall Equipment Auction in Steele is November 11th. And the DeWald Estate Equipment Auction in Streator is going to be held on November 18th. For more information and to bid with confidence, go to pifers.com.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, your trusted partner in ag lending. With our deep understanding and appreciation for the Western way of life, we proudly accept, respect, and promote the values that define our community. Whether you're a farmer, rancher, or business owner, we are here to support your financial needs and help you thrive. Choose Dakota Community Bank and Trust for all your banking needs.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Eastern Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. You can be sure of great care for your cattle and top price at sale time. Call Austin Snook at 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161 for more information or just to talk cattle markets. You can also find them on Facebook and go to their website, bowmanlivestockmarketing.com. There's a reason you're seeing more Red Angus cattle in the country. Great mama cows, high weaning weights, and easy keepers. With a family that bases their entire operation on faith, honesty, and trust. You can see those values in their 30-plus years in the Red Angus breed. Schriefer Red Angus, the breed that generates a positive return on investment. SchrieferRedAngus.com. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Mo Rest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can do it in a fraction of time with just one person on foot or horseback. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's a tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran owned and operated. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where local banking is as comfortable as your favorite pair of work boots. Step into our branches and experience a friendly atmosphere, personalized service, and financial expertise. Whether you're a hardworking farmer, a small business owner, or a local resident, we've got the banking solutions that you need. So kick off your boots and let us take care of your financial needs at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Piper's Auction and Real Estate would like to invite you to their next round of sales. Coming up, the Rooster Ridge Equipment and Hunting Supply Auction at Fort Ransom, North Dakota on Thursday, September 25th. Also coming up on Thursday, September 25th, is the West Dakota Fall Equipment Auction featured out of Bowman, North Dakota. And the Central Dakota Fall Equipment Auction in Steele is November 11th, and the DeWald Estate Equipment Auction in Streeter is going to be held on November 18th. For more information and to bid with confidence, go to pifers.com.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around.
Good morning and welcome back, everybody. A beautiful Saturday morning here in the Dakota Territory. John Arman from Ultimate Outdoor Adventures TV is with me here this morning as we talking about hunting. Let's go to where you don't have an elk tag, you're probably out there doing some archery hunting for deer, and it looks like Shelby landed a pretty good one down in the South Dakota side. And what did she get to film it with her boyfriend?
Well, that's is
that a sore subject or not?
Yeah, it is. But so they had Shelby had spotted this deer. They had she calls it perm. I get all this lingo down. We just got perm, Dad. I go, what the hell is perm? We got permission. I said, okay.
Oh, geez, they
like,
shorten it up.
Yeah,
okay.
They shorten up everything. And it was in cattails. It would come out of the alfalfa field and was bedding in these cattails out in somewhere in South Dakota. I don't know where they're at, down in the flats. And I think she missed it at one time, but she shot, I think it was 70 yards and she missed it. And again, when I know that's a long shot, but they practice for me, and I'm not going to tell them what to do. They know how I feel on some of that stuff, but they're killers and they do a good job. And so then Connor shoots prime bows, and the guys from Prime were in filming them for the opening archery season. So he was going around with his buddies, and she was kind of feeling a little bit left out. So she's like, I'm going to go hunt that deer. And so she went out there, and she was on her way out there, and she called me. And she had been scouting the night before, but she ran into another guy that was hunting the same deer. And she was a little bit hot. And I was like, oh no. And I said, honeybee plate. She goes, yes, I asked the lady, and she said, yeah, he has permission. Please don't chase him off. She goes, I won't. And so she was a little bit worried. So she wanted to get out there early, and she was on her way out there, and Connor had texted her and said, I'll join you. So she was excited. And at about 7:00, I get a call from her, and I'm like, oh, great. This guy's hunting the spot. And I couldn't understand a word she was saying. And I thought she was probably cussing or whatever. and this guy had been there when she was going to go hunt. Well, here she was like almost crying because she said, "I got him, Dad. I got him, Dad." And I said, "Well, slow down. Tell me about it." She goes, "It was just unreal. We just slid up there. We got there, and as soon as we got there, a buck jumped up, went out to 40 yards. Connor said 40 yards. She goes, I drew back, and as I drew back, I saw it wasn't the deer I wanted to kill. I said, she goes, "What'd you do?" She goes, "I missed." She goes, "I think it was on purpose." And she goes, "I no sooner missed, and I looked back to the right, and there my buck stood up in the cattail. So I knocked another arrow, and he was 40 yards, shot him, and she hit him. He was quartered away, and I think her broadhead opened up a little bit, which it ended up helping because it went up from the hindquarters into the chest. Made a perfect shot, but it just didn't get all the penetration she needed. But opened him up, and they ended up waiting an hour, and they went and got back on him, and he tried to get up a hill, and rolled back down, and she put another arrow in him, and it ended up being a 160-inch mule deer, and it's her first spot in stock.
Yep.
And let me tell you, she was saying, "There's nothing like it." She goes, "You got to do it, Dad."
I've been telling. How many years I've been telling you that, man?
I know, and it's hard when you got a small piece of property. You don't want to spot and spook, and then they're gone. So I'm hoping to get down to South Dakota and try that. And when I retire, I know for sure I will. It's just trying to divide your time. When I get stuck on one deer at the ranch, and then it's hard to leave. I was thinking about going down to Wyoming and trying to shoot an antelope that we didn't get. And Jason's like, "Well, that's going to cost us some money, and there's not very big antelope down there. We got this big deer." And I was thinking the same thing. So then we stayed here, and we're still struggling. The deer movement this year, and I've talked to other people, and if anybody out there can tell me how their deer movement is, I've been seeing it's the latest deer have ever moved for us. And I don't know if it's I think it's because there's so much food that when they stand up in their bed 200 yards away, they eat the whole way to get to the fields. And by the time they get to the fields, it's almost dark. But our movement has been tough, and we've had 3 sightings of the deer I want to kill. And the first time I sat, he ended up going in front of another blind, which was a killer. And then the next time we saw him, the next 2 times we saw him, the wind swirled just a little bit as he was coming up into the field, and we had a doe that was in the same field. They got nervous and stomped her feet and walked off, and he just turned and walked off. So he's not boogered up, but we're just trying to kill him. And then 2, I get nervous about youth season. You never know what's going to happen there. So
let's talk about youth season. The question came up. Was it last week or the week before? Do you let your kid? Do you feel that they should take a smaller dinker buck or?
Yes. And people can call in. They can call me selfish. Here's the deal. I'm old school. Grew up when a great time, same time you did. We had to work for things. We were fixing fence last week in some pretty nasty. I guess you would call it easy, but we had to carry everything up and down hills. We couldn't get there with the Ranger. And I looked at JW and I said, "This is why I didn't have any friends when I was little." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "This is what we did." I said, "Who wants to come and go out and hang out with the Armans when your dad makes you, fix fence and spray spurs and stuff like that?" But, we just learned to appreciate things. And I think, again, I have 2 kids, and my daughter being a hunter, my son didn't really hunt, so he didn't deer hunt. My daughter never got to shoot. She never expected to, and she never asked me to. She just shot the first deer that came out in front of her when she was bow hunting when she was little. And I just feel that kids need to enjoy the experience. And I think right now, whether it's sports, I think it's insane what these parents do with their kids and travel all over. And I mean, all over the country and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And they got to have the best of everything. And we give our kids everything nowadays. And it's like we feel like if we don't give it to them, they're not going to love us. And I'm like, hey, my first job is to be a parent, man. And if I'm going to be your friend, that's going to come with it. But we don't have to give kids everything. Why not give them the youth tag, shoot the does, enjoy it, enjoy the experience. If they want to turn it into a buck tag, then they can turn it into a buck tag during their regular season. I just don't feel that these kids, I don't think it helps them going out and shooting a 160-inch deer in September with a rifle. I don't think it makes a kid hooked on deer hunting. I've never seen, a kid not get excited shooting a doe or a spike. And I've taken a lot of kids hunting, and none of them have gotten to shoot over a 120-inch deer. And every one of those kids that I've taken probably continues to hunt because they enjoy it.
That's what I was going to ask you. You think if they got a big deer their first time around, they're so selective. Like if it doesn't beat that, I'm not going to take any deer. Either I got to beat it, or I'm not going to even pull a arrow back. Or even on the rifle side, do you think that's not helping with management?
I just think it ruins everybody. It's like you can't, like I said, when you go, to try out for a basketball team, you don't go straight to the NBA. You work your way up to it. And I think the same thing is with hunting, is that, these kids, and whether it's TV, whether it's YouTube now, I get 26-year-old guys and they get their first bow and they're not going to shoot anything but a giant buck. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you've never killed anything. Kill something. Get it under your belt. Same way with kids. It's like, I've taken a lot of kids on their first youth hunt. And every kid that we've taken shot their deer, came back, got to clean it, learned all about cleaning it, watched dad celebrate having a beer. They got to drink their root beer. We cooked up the back straps. We went fishing. We may shot our shotguns, at clay pigeons. We had that whole experience of what deer camp is all about. And I think a lot of these kids go down the road, they shoot their deer and they go home. And, they're on their phone the whole time. And that's one way you'll never get invited back to me, is if you come out to our deer camp and all you do is sit on your phone when you're a youth hunter, because it's just, to me, it's like you're missing out on what's going on.
Do you feel that, maybe that has something to do with they have 1,000 different things again? They got to quick shoot a deer and get back for a football game.
Well, and right? I know Russ is experiencing that right now with who he's taking rifle hunting. The guy goes, well, we got a wedding to go to. And I just said to the dad, I said, hey, is it your daughter getting married? He goes, no. And I said, okay, then you're good. I said, this is supposed to be a deer hunt. I said, you can't expect a guy that's taking you deer hunting to drop everything, take you deer hunting, and then work around your schedule. Make the time to go out there with your kid. If you got to miss a football game or do something like that, how important it, look at the whole aspect of things. When we were kids, Dad took us out of school for a day or two to go pheasant hunting. And I still remember that hunt, going down to Dickinson and sleeping in the back of the truck. That's something that's stuck in my brain forever. So, I'm not saying miss all your football games, but, sometimes you have to make some decisions. And, again, hunting is something that's a memory of a lifetime, and it's something you will continue to do the rest of your life. You may play football for a couple years or whatever, but, parents have to make decisions, because it seems like a kid is involved in everything nowadays, and everything runs 12 months a year.
I don't get much time off either, do they? I mean, even in summer break, they're still doing summer sports and everything else. I'm getting kind of a 50-50 text messages coming back. A lot of people agree with you, John, about the kids working their way up, and there's others that are texting me saying, you know what, if a 170-inch mule deer walks by, I'm going to let my son take it if it's their first deer, or daughter, so.
I know, guys, I'd be interested to know on that one, the reasoning behind it. Is it just because, well, that's just what happened? And again, I guess there's a difference in if something just happens to walk out in front of you. But again, I don't know. I call me selfish. I've not shot a 170-inch mule deer in my life. And to have some snot-nosed kid come out here on his first deer, and it happens to walk in front of him and he shoots it, I think I'd be a little bit chapped, because I don't think it's going to mean the same to him as it does to me. And I've had to work my whole life trying to get it that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I know, like I said, I understand, and I have kids and I love my kids. I just don't believe that you have to give them everything, You don't have to give them that brand new iPhone. They can have a used Motorola flip phone for their first one.
Text comes in, says, I'd like to see the North Dakota side drop the buck only tags, go to an any deer or any any antlerless tags like many other states do. And because if you have the buck tag, you cannot use it on a doe. So
Well,
yeah.
let me ask you this: how many people? And again, I would, what I would do? I would go back to where it used to be, and there's no youth season. Why do we have it? Why do we need a youth season? What are we so worried about? Is there a study that's been done that shows that a kid going out when and again, I can understand when they're, that we want our kids some places, if we have extra doe tags and things like that, when we have a good population, that kids can go early and shoot does. But why did we change to a youth season?
What's wrong with them hunting in the regular season, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And is there statistics that show starting kids, letting them shoot a deer? And it's like, when did it all come about deer? What about rabbits? What about squirrels?
Yeah.
What about grouse and partridge and things? We never really even thought about deer. We just wanted to go hunting. Whether it was gophers or whatever.
So, the first thing I ever shot with a bow and arrow was a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the hard thing too is that, like, I know now, I was talking to my buddy Wes. So a kid gets a youth tag out in 2J2 or whatever, he ain't going to get drawn for the next 10 years because there's no deer out there, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing too, that these kids get one tag and then they don't get to deer hunt. Things are easier when we have more deer. That's for sure.
Josh commented on the YouTube side. He says, my boy got lucky on his first archery hunt. He was offered some land to hunt, and he says that on his first sit, he shot a buck that was about 112-inch buck or so. And last year he shot another buck just a little bit bigger. He said, but nothing like outrageous. So that, they're working their way up and starting with the small ones and going up on that. So that's nice.
Well, and again, like I said, it sounds like he went out there and he's doing his homework and stuff like that. And that's different. I mean, that's different if his son goes out on his own, and is going out hunting and a 150-inch deer walks by. Well, I'm not going to say don't shoot that deer, and that it sounds like that kid's having a blast. And that's the way most of us kind of grew up, is that we would shoot whatever was in front of us. There's a big difference between dad taking you out, sitting you on a hill, and selectively telling you which deer to shoot, because you're on this great property in September, compared to going out and bow hunting and sitting in a woodlot on your own, trying to shoot a deer. So,
and I think things have changed too, John, a lot of people used to love eating venison. I don't know if the allure of, hey, we're hunting it for meat is there anymore. I think so. I mean, not everybody, but I think you don't see people like this is what we're going to use it for, and we're excited to have this meat. The mayor says South Dakota mentor program used to be 10 years old and up. I think now it's whenever the parents thinks it's okay with the kid shooting. I wonder how many deer were actually shot by the parent and not the kids. And I hope that's not what happens.
No, I would feel, I just think sometimes parents, especially now with social media and everything, it's like, look at my kid. And again, we're all proud of our kids. But when we were kids, we shot a deer, the only way someone saw it is if you carried a picture around in your pocket and showed them, or stuck it up at the local sporting goods store, So I think some of that is, that's where the parents get it, is because my kid's got to be better than that kid, or, this kid shot that deer. And it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, I'm not begrudging any kid from being out hunting. I just sometimes think we've lost our way in what is important in hunting.
Another one, if follow up on the first one with his kid, he said he missed a monster muley on a spot and stock last year, ended up with a respectable whitetail. Scouts a lot, puts a lot of time in looking for his bucks, and that's good. And some places they have the opportunity to do that, right? Okay, you get some more urban areas, they're not going to have the amount of time to put in that maybe some kids do if they live on their own property, farm and ranch kids. So, but around some areas, there's some of the farm and ranch kids that have plenty of miles and miles of land to hunt. They don't get into hunting anymore. I
No.
wonder what happened there.
I don't know if people get, I think it's one of those deals. If your parents do it, you're going to do it.
Right.
I don't know a lot of kids that hunt that don't have parents or don't have a really close friend that does it. And I think that's the thing. It's, we grew up. We had a bow, a hatchet, and a BB gun when we were 5 years old. I've said many times to my mom, "Did you guys actually love us, or did you not care about us?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You were giving us like guns when we were 5 years old."
Oh, hold on. I don't. I think they loved you very much because I had the same thing, and my parents, I thought they were awesome.
Well, I know, but like I said, it was just weird because when my kids were 8, I couldn't even imagine just giving them a shotgun like I had. Because I can remember when Kurt came over to my house, I think I was 9 years old, and we saw a rooster out in the front yard. I grabbed my shotgun after school. We went out there and we shot it. And I'm thinking my kids at 8, 9 years old, I'd have been scared to death. But it was different times. We were just raised differently than I raised my kids even.
Yep. Yeah, it's continuously going to change, and like you said, when we started, AI is going to, whether you like it or not, going to be a part of something in the hunting and fishing industry. It's going to be it's going to do something to it. I don't know how yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure. Like I said, I wish the world would slow down. We're in a crazy time right now, and it's kind of crazy how everything that's happened, and somehow we got to figure out how to slow things down and get along better. Because, like I said, the world is changing, and it's changing fast.
There's a comment that came in here. We're up against the end of the program here, though. It says there were some hunting shows that focus more on the size of the deer, and they never show what to do with the meat side of things. And there's plenty of those out there, but we can do that on the after show, John, because we are up against the time here. Thanks for coming on the program, making time on a Saturday morning here. Appreciate that, man.
You bet, buddy. Thank you. Like always, I enjoy it.
You bet. Check out Ultimate Outdoor Adventures TV. You can find them on all sorts of platforms. Even you can just use your artificial intelligence, ask it where to find it, and they'll tell you where to go. More on the after show program on my YouTube channel, Dakota Prairie Outdoors Radio. Have yourself a great weekend. Eat some meat, drink some milk, wear fur and wool, and thank a private landowner. Thank you, stations. All right, John, I got another comment here. It says, drop the seasons, go to one deer season starting in September and open through December. No group specific seasons. Make it truly a management-based system with so many tags issued based on numbers and harvest.
Nah. That one's a tough one. It's like, so, and again, unless the guy would talk to him specifically, wouldn't know what reasoning. My biggest thing right now is I like, if I could change things for better management, versus, because there's two different things. I love our rifle season right now. Growing up the way we did when it's cold, miserable out, and the rut is going on, you have a chance of killing some nice deer. It's just super exciting. If you wanted to create opportunity to grow in bigger deer, change that season out of the rut.
Put it in December, yeah.
Right. So you're not killing, and again, we're tough because other states don't have the winters like we do. So even if we put in December, we have a bad winter, we're going to kill our big deer because they're going to be on the food source. But I like 2 seasons. I like having the opportunity to be a bow hunter, and we've been fortunate, and I'm surprised that we haven't had more of a push on one tag system again. Because of the numbers, but having your archery tag and having your rifle tag as a landowner, I really enjoy. And I know some people are going to get mad at that. And we've talked about that. I am, it's like, even though I'm a landowner, as a non-landowner, say I didn't have any land, I would never, ever bitch about a landowner getting a tag.
Exactly.
Because
but boy, the day in the antelope season changed on that, didn't it? They got that all switched over, and there's a lot of people in this countryside that did not get an antelope tag, and they are pissed.
Well, and again, the hard thing for me is I don't understand. So what people don't I don't know if they don't understand, but 91% of all deer that are killed in the United States, whitetail, are killed on private property. So that tells you that there's a lot of really good landowners.
Yep.
Because they're letting people hunt. And I remember when in South Dakota they shut down, in Hardin County, to everybody. It didn't make a difference if you're a family or not. No one hunted.
Nope.
And I think sometimes we could be pushing. That could happen here. Real fast if things don't change with some of this. People again. I don't. When we say the animal, and we always say, well, it's going to turn out like Europe. Well, I don't think it's going to turn out like Europe. It's different. But landowners do own, whether you want to say it or not, they pretty much own the animals because possession is 9/10 the law. And if that deer is on their property, there's no way, no how anybody's going to kill it unless that landowner gives them permission.
Unless and they do it the wrong way, yeah.
Right. And then in North Dakota, we're 6% private. So that means 96% of our deer are on private land. So when we allocate tags, giving a landowner a tag has no effect on anything.
No.
And
the thing is that they're more restricted. So you look in my area, for instance, my landowner tag limits me to one section of land.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hunt federal on it. I can't hunt state. I can't hunt anything else except that quarter or that section or whatever it may be.
Right.
That's it. If I see a doozy of a deer on federal land, I cannot hunt it.
But then why is it different for elk?
That I'd have no idea why they. Now again, you're talking who's making the rules. I don't know why they switched that. I think it's just because of because there were so few at the time, and I really don't know. I really don't.
And again, my philosophy is that the ranchers out west are a little bit saltier. And they might have put a little bit more pressure on them. I don't know. But I've never understood that, too. It's like if you're going to give a guy a tag, if you're going to let, it's kind of like that program where if you let 5 people hunt, then you can get a depredation tag.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're letting people hunt. So I let, whether it's my friends or not. So I got Jason here. I got John on him. And we've got kids coming out here. So you got 6 to 10 people that come and hunt your land every year. I don't get any bonus points for that.
Yeah.
So landowners are doing it all across the board. Everybody, most people build relationships with landowners to get a chance to hunt, and there's still a lot of good public. Like I said, if I didn't own land there, you just have to work harder. There's so much land along the river you could hunt, for bow hunting. There's pieces all over, but again, I think North Dakota, I'd love to see them go to a type A, type 1, type 2 tag. Well, one's private, one's public. If you want to solve some of that crowding, because I've always gotten frustrated when they say, 3E2 has got 3,000 leftover doe tags, and then everybody grabs them, and then pretty soon you got 3,000 guys driving around with nowhere to hunt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or go to a system where Jason sends in the letter to the Game and Fish and says, I have permission to hunt this land, signed off or whatever. So that the guy's got permission to hunt somewhere if he's not going to hunt public. It is hard. There's no question. I don't think the Game and Fish has an easy job because, is their job to manage wildlife, just manage the wildlife, or is it part social? Because the social gets involved when people start bitching about one tag, one everything, or why don't I get this, or the antelope gratis tag thing. That's social issues. That's not management issues. That's social issues. So it's a balance between the two of them, which can't be easy,
Yeah.
Because on one hand, I do understand being a guy that never gets antelope tag. Why can't I get a tag? And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, if I'm a rancher and I'm the guy doing all the work and fixing the fences and have the antelope in my place, why can't I kill them?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mess, man. I wouldn't want to have that job. Eric says here, he says, have any of you guys ever used a Beretta Tikka 3 in about a 25-06? And I have not done anything at the 25-06 level, but I have shot a Beretta Tikka 3. But I think it was like What was it? I can't remember what chamber it was, but it's a nice rifle. Nice rifle. But 25-06 round, great round. You can load it up. You can load it down. You can buy factory ammo everywhere for it. It's just all around good round. So, well, John, found a neighbor's bull in my hayfield last night. I got back from hauling hay, and I got into the house at about, I don't know, it was about 9:00. And she says, "Hey, by the way, I was on a jog this afternoon, and there's a bull laying in the field." I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I was like, "So last night I went up with the spotlight and I found him, and couldn't read a brand on him. He didn't really want to cooperate with me, so I think I'm gonna go up there and take a look and see exactly what's what there."
Yeah, like I said, I came in last night and we had cows. Called my neighbor. I said, "I think your cows are in the wrong spot." Yeah, they were in by the grain bins and all this. He just baled the alfalfa field and it's funny how they find that hole in the fence and then he put them all back in. And last night when we came back by, they're all standing by where he fixed that fence.
Like, we want up there.
They're like, "I like that green. I like it's green everywhere here, but they I suppose like that alfalfa."
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks again. Have yourself a great day. I'm gonna just get my poop in a group here, unload some hay, and go see if see if it's the neighbor's bull. Hopefully, I'm still missing a bull, so I kind of hope it's mine. But
yeah,
it looked pretty sore, so it must have been.
You gotta start putting like air trackers on those things.
Yeah, I talked to 701X Tags about doing some stuff, just on my bulls, right? I mean,
right. Because they're the ones that usually wander off, don't they?
Yeah, and they tree up and brush up, and then they get on to fight. And anyway, the expense of it is just outrageous.
Is it?
Yeah, it is just crazy expensive. And I told him, I said, "Well, let's do some radio trade out." And then I thought, I'd rather just be paid.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because if another tag system comes out that's better, it's like maybe I could do that one instead, but I don't know. Maybe
we had a guy last night, speaking of this, cross my brain again, flying our freaking place again, come over in a white with a red stripe plane with big tires on and was low. And we had a nice mule deer, and not that mule deer was going to come to us, but it was funny how when that mule deer had that plane go over top of him, how he was gone.
Yeah.
And that could have had something to do with our movement last night.
Well, with your equipment, video that.
There's no tag on it at all.
No tail number.
Still none.
Still
if
video
it was
still video it.
It was tiny.
Yeah. No, trust me. Video it, and because nobody believes what happened out here a couple Fridays ago. I'm still getting people talking behind my back on that. And they're like, "Rrr." I'm like, so video it. You guys got the good equipment. Make sure you keep a record of that.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing that.
Actually, I'm going to stop YouTube here and I'll talk to you off air here a little bit here. See you YouTubers here. I'm going to